People of Jiu Jitsu podcast 11 with my buddy Arthur Abrams. So, a little intro about Arthur for those that don't know who he is. Today's guest is someone many of you already know as the watch guy in New York City. Arthur is New York-based luxury watch and fine jewelry expert with over 2 decades of hand-on experience in the high-end market. He is the owner and the president of Manhattan Buyers, located on Fifth Avenue, where he specializes in buying, selling, and appraising some of the world's most desired timepieces, including Rolex, Patek Philippe, Richard Mille, and many, many other elite brands. Beyond just watches, Arthur is deeply respected for his vision, honesty, and his understanding of value, not just what something costs, but what is actually worth in the real market. That expertise has made him a trusted voice in the industry and has led to appearances on major media outlets such as CNN, Bloomberg TV, and the BBC, where he has been called on to explain trends in luxury goods, collectibles, and the global watch market. What makes Arthur especially interesting is that he just didn't study this world from the outside. He lives in it. He sees market cycles come and go, watches trends rise and collapse, and understands how emotions, scarcity, craftsmanship, and psychology all play a role in why people value certain watches the way they do. Outside of business, Arthur is also someone who values discipline and personal development, with background in martial arts, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt, which I think adds an interesting layer of how he approaches both life and business. He's focused, grounded, and no nonsense. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. I get invited to a few of these. I'm not trying to hype myself up and make myself seem like I'm bigger than I really am, but some of these podcasts that invite me, I don't have interest in doing. Jiu Jitsu is a big interest of mine. You're a friend of mine. We train together more than once.
Yes.
And it's a pleasure. And let's go.
Let's go. So we'll get to Jiu Jitsu a little bit later. I want to unfold the mystery that some people want to know. If you watch nowadays any social media outlets, you're going to see big percentage of news or videos are related to watches. Right, especially with the trend lately that we've been seeing. So if you can walk us through how you got into the jewelry business in general.
So I got into jewelry totally by accident. I finished St. John's. I graduated St. John's University with a bachelor's degree in fine arts and graphic design. And I went to work for Anne Klein, the women's wear line, for like literally, I don't know, they hired me over a lot of people. I went there. I was late both times getting there. It was like a pain in the butt to get there from where I lived in Queens. The place was also in Queens, but Long Island City.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a real pain in the butt for me to get there. And 2 days of working there, I'm like in a cubicle on a computer trying to, like tell these people what they're doing is not cool because they're not, you know what I mean? They weren't young, they weren't hip. They were based on old designs, and all this other stuff was like really kind of, to me, it was like outdated.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 days in, I just stopped going. So come Friday, I was ignoring the ladies' phone calls for like a couple of days. Finally, like Friday, by accident, I answered the phone. She's like, Arthur? I'm like, hello? I picked up the phone, like waking up out of bed. I picked up the phone. And she's like, Arthur, are you all right? Like, what's going on with you? You haven't come to work. Like, you haven't been around. You came Monday and Tuesday. It's Friday. Where are you? Like, what's going on? I'm like, like I picked up the phone and now I got to talk, right? So I'm like, you know what? I don't think this job is going to work out for me. I'm going through some personal stuff right now, blah, blah, blah. She's like, we took you over so many other applicants and blah, blah, and this and that. And I'm like, miss, this job's not for me. And then a cousin of mine He's a known jeweler on 47th Street Diamond District. My cousin Eddie, Flawless.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, he needed a person that he could trust. And I went in there not expecting anything. I was kind of on the fence of what I want to do with life. At that point, I kind of pivoted a little bit and wanted to become a lawyer possibly. So I was studying for my LSATs, and I was working for them while I was studying my LSATs. Kind of like just, you know, not serious, nothing serious about it. And then took my LSATs, did pretty well. Now I'm doing the law school applications. I'm like thinking to myself, man, another 3 years of school. Do I really want to do this? Like, do I really want to go to law school? Like, I don't know. Let me just stick it out. Let me see where this goes. And at that time already, I started training at Henzo's. Mm-hmm. And Henzo would come up to me, and he's a big watch guy. Yeah. Like, Henzo loves watches. He'd come up to me, hey, Arthur, how much is this? Well, like, how much can I get this for? Like, do you know about this watch? Do you know about that watch? So my first few sales working for my cousin were actually to Henzo. My first few couple of sales, and I was paying my school tuition with that extra little bit of money that I was making, you know? And about a year and a half in with my cousin, I come to him and I ask him, I'm like, what's the future here? Like, are we going in? Am I ever going to be anyone in this company here? Mm-hmm. He's like, no. It's like, pretty much you'll be my bitch for the rest of your life type of deal. So I'm like, you know what? I'll give you my 2 weeks. I got to go on my own. He's like, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know anything about it, but go ahead, try. And my uncle goes to me, his dad, he goes to me. I'm like, his name's Michael, by the way, also. I'm like, Uncle Mike, what do I do? He goes to me, he's like an old saying, right? A person that doesn't risk never enjoys the champagne, right? Or like the spoils of war, right? So that's what he tells me. I'm like, okay, I want champagne. I like champagne. I was like about 21, 22 at the time. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Went out, got a little place on 47th Street, and that's where it all started pretty much, you know? Started hustling watches, a little bit of jewelry, selling, buying, trading. That's what it all started.
You know, I read it recently that, or I heard maybe one of the jeweler guys talking that 47 years ago used to have a bad rap. Right. Me personally, I knew a couple of people, a girl, including who actually came to America in 1993 with on the same plane. She's still in the business. She has her place on 47th. But I also felt like maybe that's not the most ideal place. You know, scammers here and there. Maybe the numbers are a little bit off. But I feel like now people trust that location much more than they did before.
Right. You know, you got guys. First of all, everyone's, you know, everything's out in the open. Everything, you know, kind of public eye is big right now. You know, you have social media. But yeah, you got guys like, you know, Moses, Max, you know, other guys out there that spend millions and millions of dollars on branding themselves as, you know, straight businessmen and honest businessmen. So for them, it's honestly not worth to screw you out of, you know, 20,000, 10,000. That doesn't, for their reputation, it doesn't pay off. Long term, it doesn't pay off. When I got there, it was a different animal. There were no Google reviews, no Yelp, no social media. Everything was kind of hush hush. You could, you know, nobody knew anything. Nowadays, if you want to Google the price of gold, Chat GPT it, you know. You want to look at the markets, you could, you know, like it'll explain to you dollar to dollar what about you should get. You know, a long time ago, this information was not out there, you know, like, so people would, yeah, for sure, gotten taken advantage of, you know. Nowadays, it's different. Nowadays, we cleaned up the place.
Yeah. When do you feel like you realize that it's not just a job for you? This is going to be something that you're going to do for the rest of your life?
So I think in the beginning, it was very tough. Honestly, I was training Jiu Jitsu already. And at a point when I went on my own, I couldn't even afford to pay for the tuition. So at a point, I actually had to stop training. So I remember I used to train at Henzo's and I used to train at Phil Nurse's also. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, of course. I know that.
So I used to train with Phil Nurse, and Phil Nurse is like a guru master, met many, many people also there. But first I had to make a choice between Henzo's and Phil's, right? Because I was training at both places. And then going on my own, I couldn't afford both places. So I, had to let go of one, which was Phil's. And then a few months after that, I had to stop training at Henzo's because I couldn't afford Henzo's. And then I got a couple of phone calls from a couple of guys like, hey, what's going on? Where are you? Like, what happened to you? I think it was probably a blue belt at the time already. So it's like, what's going on? Where are you? It's like, dude, I can't afford it. And Henzo found that actually. He's like, come here, let me talk to you. I said, okay. He's like, what's up? Like, you haven't been coming in, like you having problems. What's going on? Talk to me. What's going on? I'm like, yeah, like I opened up my own business and it's tough. It's hard for me to pay my own rent, like for my place, my shop, my little booth. He's like, don't worry about it. Whenever you have the money, you pay me back. We'll just make like a IOU type of thing in the system for you. I think at the time I probably ended up owing them like maybe $1,200 or something like that until I started paying, until I started making enough money to pay. But Henzo's good that way, like great. He's done that for multiple. I'm sure like he's even done more, like he sees guys in certain situations like, dude, I can't afford to train. I've seen him send money to people, do
But
things,
the fact that he kind of gave you a jump start with getting one of your first watches, that's a big deal.
It's a big deal. Also, yeah, he put a lot of, Henzo puts a stamp of approval on it. You're kind of going to get, all the other guys that are like there coming in like, hey, I heard Henzo, you're Henzo's guy. Even till today, I just sold a watch to one of their guys. Nelson Montero, Nelson?
No.
He's the guy, he's like a coral belt. I think he's the one that started, like, he's the one that like organized the first Abu Dhabis. I just sold to him a Submariner. And again, that was from Henzo and actually Draculino now, because it's all like one recommendation. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been interesting.
Awesome
yeah.
to have some names under your belt over as a watch person for this jiu-jitsu big names.
For me, I work with a lot of people that are on a fame scale of much higher.
Yeah.
But for me, I prefer to work with the guys that I kind of idolized watching on the computer, not even the TV, because we were streaming all this stuff, right? The early ADCCs and all these competitions. So I've done stuff for Gordon, other guys, in the community, in the jiu-jitsu community. And yeah, it's been good. It's been good. And for me, I value that more than just like some random celebrity, a rapper, some whatever housewife or whatever, So
you lived through multiple watch markets, booms and crashes. What is one pattern you see repeat every single time?
So I think people fixate a lot of times on, like, hey, I got this Rolex and it was this price or it was that price. Like Rolex can literally click a button and produce another 10,000 units at any given time. So scarcity doesn't necessarily kind of like make it, it's not really scarce if Rolex chooses for it not to be scarce, And people have to kind of understand that there was a big boom a couple of years ago where everyone was, a watch expert and everyone was trading watches and, doing all these sort of things and they were making money. And all of a sudden, they got the rug swept from underneath them. And they had to realize quickly that, listen, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. If you're kind of like overpaying for things, like what is this item really worth at the end of the day? I think ultimately people have to realize that when you're buying something, you're not buying it for resale. You're buying it because you love it, you want to wear it, you want to enjoy it. And if it happens to go up in price, that's great, that you did great. But if it doesn't, don't expect it to go up in price is what I'm trying to tell you. It's like people expect it. Oh, I bought this. People come to me all the time. I bought this 10 years ago. It should be worth more now. It's like, why? Like, no, this isn't the model. You know what I mean? Like, or whatever.
Yeah. What's the biggest mistake you see first-time buyers make when they walk into the watch world?
So I think first time buyers, I mean, as far as like I think that people need to realize that, like I said, they need to realize that they're buying a watch. They have to be kind
Should
of,
they know exactly what they're looking for? Or sometimes
I mean,
you're in a position to guide them through this
we're in a
process?
position to guide you. Are you looking for something kind of a little bit more sportier, a little bigger, a little smaller? But ultimately, I think it's the individual's decision. It goes with their, style. Ultimately, you should buy whatever you like, as opposed to buying something that holds value. I think that that's kind of like my thinking on it is like, if you love a brand and like you love the design, don't get talked out of not buying that brand because it doesn't hold or retain as much value as, let's say, a Rolex or a Patek does. You know what I mean? Just go for what you really want. And if you're the type of guy that's gonna think about resale value, obviously don't go for that brand because you're gonna lose a lot of money. It's like buying a Bentley truck. You know what happens to a Bentley Bentayga after it leaves the lot. 250K sticker after a year, it's 150, so you lost 100 grand on like a year or two. A lot of watch brands are just like that. Rolex is like compare Rolex to like a Porsche 911. You drive it for a couple of miles, it's still in great shape. You could kind of almost get retail back for it, which is good,
Yeah, I'm that guy who didn't really care about the watch going up in price, especially with my last watch. I'm very happy with it. I was looking for a specific item. Arthur found it, and he gave me a great deal, and I'm so happy that I have it. And like you just mentioned, you really have to be happy with what you're wearing. You're wearing it.
Yeah.
You want to enjoy it. I mean, like you said, 10, 20 years from now, if it's up and down, whatever, you had the blast wearing it.
Yeah. People go out and they spend 7-10 grand on a watch. I mean, like, it's okay. It's a decent amount of money. I'm not going to sit there and tell you it's like a lot of money, right? In the watch game, that's not really a lot of money.
Yeah, of course.
All right. So what do you expect to get back? You wore it, you beat it up, you had a good time, you've flown around the world with it, you got your kids married in it. Like, what do you expect to get back? That's kind of like, it's just, you got to take it with a kind of like a attitude of, I wore it, I enjoyed it, it was something that I wanted, and either you sell it, upgrade it, or you keep it.
What's in your eyes makes a watch truly a timeless piece?
So for me, I like a lot of my watches to be like iconic designs. I like some of the Omega iconic designs, the Moon watch, for an example. It's got a ton of history behind it. First watch on the moon or whatever it was. If they went to the moon, I don't know. Don't ask me, but that's what it's called. You have iconic designs. Rolex Submariner is an iconic design.
Deep Sea would be one of them, you think?
Deep Sea is like a play on the Submariner, so it's not, I mean, that to me is like a little large. If you're a big guy, maybe you can wear it. It's really thick case. If you're wearing collared shirts, kind of sticks out. Yes. It's not really kind of like, but if that's your thing, go ahead. Like do you. For me, for me, I sell you whatever you want to buy, my friend. Like whatever you want, I got you. I'll tell you what I think about it, but ultimately, that's your decision, that's your choice. You got to go for it, and that's what you got to do.
So Jiu-Jitsu, you keep on, no matter how much you're talking about your business, I always hear you mentioning Jiu-Jitsu because that's just as big of a part of your life as your job is, as your business is. So if you can tell us how you got into Jiu-Jitsu, what was going on in your world. You obviously were much younger than you are now. So how was Jiu-Jitsu discovered for you?
So I was
because I know you trained Taekwondo, right?
Yeah, so I trained, I did a little wrestling, I did a little karate, and then I transitioned. I had a really good master Sop, him.
Yeah, Sop is the man.
He was my Taekwondo master, and I found him while I was in college. through a friend of mine, a classmate of mine that was sitting there. He was a black belt in Taekwondo, really good, also really good Taekwondo guy. And I found Master Sop. And in college, I was training a lot. I was training probably about 4 hours a day, probably about 5 to 6 days a week just in Taekwondo. I wanted to compete. I used to compete a lot. My goal was to make like the nationals, the Olympic team. That was kind of my goal in Taekwondo. And when that didn't happen and I was a black belt already, I actually discovered the UFC DVDs in a video store. Mm-hmm. Just like, I was like, what the hell is this? This is like, is this real? Like, and watching the DVD, I actually ended up falling asleep. I think it was like one of Royce's fights where he went like 30 minutes or 40 minutes. I actually fell asleep watching it. And all of a sudden I hear like, oh my God, he tapped him. He got him with blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what the hell? I rewound it. I'm like looking at it. Like, what the hell did he do to him? I don't get it. Like, how did he tap this big guy? It was like, I think it was like chemo or something he was fighting. So he ended up tapping him. I was like, man, this jiu-jitsu stuff is really cool. Like, I got to learn this. And at the time I was probably like a little cocky, a little arrogant. I thought I was the shit, because I was a black belt in Taekwondo. My legs could fly everywhere. For the couple of fights that I did have in the street, there was no competition ever, and, but then soon I realized I was only about 170 pounds, 175 pounds at the time. And that a big guy can just lay on top of you and just like, destroy you, right? Mm-hmm. Especially a guy that knows how to control you, wrestle, judo, and, so I was working in the city already. So I was kind of doing a lot of research. It was between Matt Serra's gym on Long Island. I'm from Queens, right? So it was Matt Serra's gym on Long Island, or it was Henzo's gym in the city. And back then, the internet was like in the beginning stages. So honestly, I thought that Henzo hates when I say this, bro. He's heard this multiple times. Like I heard that, like I thought that Henzo was like some fake poser. I couldn't get a lot of research done. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was like, a guy. You remember we had these guys that would like call themselves something, just to play off the famous person. And then you'd find out that they were a fraud, and then whatever. But like, that's what I thought. I thought that, hey, I know Royce Gracie. I couldn't even pronounce it, right? Royce, whatever. And, I know Royce, but I don't know what's this Renzo Gracie. Like he's probably like some guy that's like fake or whatever, So I go down to the academy, and it was one of the guys that was there back then was Magno Gama. I don't know if you know Magno. I know where it is. Magno Gama, very good instructor. Also, I think Magno was a blue belt at the time, and he goes to me, "Hey, my brother, how are you?" And Magno's not a big guy. He's like, "Hey, my brother, how are you? You ever trained before?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a black belt and this." And no, did you train like grappling jiu-jitsu before? Like we don't really hit on the ground. I said, I did some wrestling as a kid. My uncle was a master of sport from the former Soviet Union in wrestling. So as a kid, I trained with him a little while. I kind of knew a little bit, we trained. And he's like, "Okay, you see this guy right here, Danny?" Some little Brazilian guy. He was a blue belt, that kid, Danny, at the time. And just go again, but no hitting, okay? I know you're like a karate, taekwondo guy, but just don't punch, no kick, just you have to grapple. And whoever says basically uncle, right? Whoever gets a submission. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, sure. So this kid's like playing with me, takes my back, chokes me out. This kid basically like chokes me out with the same choke probably about 3 times. Like, where do I sign up? Show me where I signed up. That's kind of how it went, And then back then, Henzo's was like, it's an interesting place, It's not as clean cut as it is today.
I was going to ask you, what was your first real humbling moment on the mats? I think that was it.
That was for sure it. A small guy, probably about 100, I don't know, probably 135-pound guy, 5'5", just destroying you.
I think if you would go to Long Island with Matt, or you came to the city, either way, I think you would hit the nail on the head.
Yeah. But back then, just remember, back then there were not that many options. Yeah. I don't even think like Marcelo's was open back then. I think Marcelo opened up a couple of years after I started training. And then the real kind of like, those were the only two.
Yeah, it was either word of mouth, you passing by a place, you see a sign.
Yeah.
You know, before phones, it was just very difficult to do any kind of advertisement.
There's no research. There's no really, a lot of the guys that I spoke to that came to Hensel's before me found Hensel's in like Black Belt magazine and one of these type of magazines, like, you know what I mean? But I didn't read this Black Belt magazine. Like, I thought it was all BS. Like, those guys like doing all these techniques or like whatever. I thought it was all BS. Maybe it wasn't, but when I was a kid, I thought it was.
Do you see parallels between jiu-jitsu and the watch business, especially when it comes to patience, timing, and not forcing things?
So I definitely see a lot of, look, a lot of guys know that I'm a jiu-jitsu guy for a long time. And so they don't mess around just in general. And I'm the type of person that if I say something, I do it. And that's what I expect back. And when you're dealing with other individuals, sometimes they're kind of a little lax in that, they play around. They might tell you they'll pay you tomorrow because we're dealers, right? We always give each other, a time slot to pay, or we give each other terms and conditions to fill in afterwards. It's like, if I sold you something and you have a shop down the street from me, I work with you, right? Like, you tell me you're going to pay me by Friday. You sold one of my items. You're going to pay me by Friday. I expect that Friday you're going to come, you're going to pay me. Some of these guys, they start playing games with you. All right. So, but with me, it didn't really happen as often. It happens sometimes, but it didn't really happen as often because, oh, bro, this guy, he'll do this, he'll do that. So the guys would come and they bring me the money straight away, not play too many games. And people would be like, how do you get paid so fast? This guy has been schlepping me for freaking 2-3 months, giving me $200-$300 each time he sees me, and I was like, yeah, but yeah, definitely like discipline wise, just like days. Sometimes when you're working as an entrepreneur, you got to understand, like, there are going to be days that you're not feeling up to coming into work, but there's no way to call out and, be sick at home. So with a little fever, a little cold, you still got to show up, and sometimes it's a funny story for you. So me and Henzo and a couple of the guys, so Henzo has got a big network of guys that he knows, right? So every time he would come to 47th Street to pick up something, fix something, whatever, he would call me and a few other guys that are working there. Those other guys are Brazilian. He would call us to a restaurant on 47th Street called 46th Street called Emporio Brazil. So, Henzo calls us over. It's like, oh, come, where are you? Blah, 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 come sit. Let's get lunch together. So we sit, we eat lunch. And then he's like, hey, you want a beer? One beer? Come on, have a beer. Okay, fine. I'm like, Henzo, I got to go to training at like 6 o'clock. And he's like, just have one. Don't worry about it. One turns into two turns into three. Then, after 3, he's like, you know what? Let's order one caipirinha. So we order the caipirinha. And then I'm like, Henzo, I got to go train. Henzo, I got to go train. So he's like, okay. Had a couple. I'm like, bro, I really have to go now. That's it. So I would get on the train, come to jiu-jitsu, a little buzzed. People are like, dude, you smell like alcohol. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? I'm like, yeah, I was just out at lunch with Henzo's. You're training? How many drinks did you have? I'm like, honestly, I don't know. And like, you're training right now? I was like, yeah, I was much younger back then. Now I'll probably feel it, but that's a funny story from like a long time ago.
Perfect question to follow up your story. Jiu-jitsu humbles you physically, injuries, bad days, and so on. How has that shaped your mindset on longevity in both training and business?
So I think when I started jiu-jitsu, I was young, very, very committed. I used to compete and I used to eat, breathe, sleep jiu-jitsu. So I used to train about 5-6 days a week, as much as I could. Sometimes I would do doubles a lot of times. I would do doubles. And I got good really fast. I got my blue belt in 4 months. I thought at this rate, I'm going to get my black belt in like 2 years, dude. I was like, this thing is easy. I got my blue belt. So just another story aside, I literally was training with a guy that was just showing me the triangle choke in class. I didn't know what a triangle choke was. I was a white belt. 4 months of training. 4 months of training. And we're rolling with the guy now, and I end up triangle choking him in a live roll. And he was a blue belt. So Hensel just slaps me up with a blue belt that day. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, oh, and the guy's like, motherfucker, you know what I mean? You got your blue belt because I just taught you that choke. You didn't even know how to do it. It was funny. But I think that in the beginning, I was really kind of like competing and kind of like thinking, do I want to pursue this as maybe a potential career? I was also I did Muay Thai fights and trying to do like, I did a few like smoker boxing fights, you know what I mean? Like, so I was thinking, so should I try the MMA thing? Because a lot of the guys that I was around were. But later on, I kind of changed up on the amount of time that I'm training and started devoting more time towards the work and the actual, like the real job, right? The job that paid the bills. All right. And started building more kind of like a reputation, more relationships and taking care of that. Cause I would be at work. I would go to train in the morning, be at work at 10. And as soon as 5 o'clock is there, I'm out. If you're telling me you want to buy something from me, 5:05, I can make money on it. I don't care because I have to go to Hensel's and I have to be there on time and I have to change and I have to get my warm-ups in and all that stuff. So I think that later on is when I started figuring out that, listen, this is going to take a lot more effort. Like the business side of things is going to take a lot more effort. I'm devoting a lot of time to the jiu-jitsu side. So I got to kind of like manage my time a little bit better. And, you know, obviously you grow, hopefully, right? You know, you grow and you make more contacts, more sales, more money comes in, reputation gets bigger and better. I think that's kind of the
Amazing. What has jiu-jitsu given you that money and success never could?
I think just, you know, you can, like every guy in jiu-jitsu, you could be on that one given day, you could be the best guy on the mat, but out there, you know that you're not the best. And just knowing that, you know, you owe that to yourself just to keep coming and trying. You know, you're never going to be perfect. You're never going to be, you know, the best in the world, but you got to keep trying to attain, you know, a higher level every day. And that's what I bring. That's what I bring to my job. You know, that's what I bring to the office, to my staff, the people that work for me. You know what I mean? Like they look up and some days they're like, man, you know what I mean? Like I feel bummed out. I'm like, it's okay. You know, sometimes you're not going to have all great days. You know, there's nobody that does. If you do, there's something wrong with you. You know, some days you're just going to feel, bro, I feel like shit. I don't want to be here. This place sucks. You know, and some days I feel like that on the mat. You know, some days you come in, you haven't trained for like 2-3 months. You're from an injury and guys don't really know. They don't really give a shit. Yeah. Right. So they're going hard at you. You're like, fuck, dude. And you're like, you just got to deal with it. So it's like something that you have to deal with. On the mats you have to deal with, and life you have to deal with your wife and kids you got to deal with, you know.
I will say that when you train at a reputable place for years and you pick up great amount of technique, not just good, great amount of technique, even if you skip a few months, as you mentioned that we unfortunately have to sometimes, or adults do in general, you go anywhere else in the world to train jiu-jitsu and your technique is always going to find an answer. So I'm sure,
yeah,
you know, that is the case with you because you've been at the right facility all this time, you know, and
I've been very lucky.
Yeah.
My first teacher, the first guy I trained with in jiu-jitsu was Sean Williams. And then, you know, then it went to like Henzo and John Danner and Igor Gracie, Halls Gracie, Gregor, the who's who of jiu-jitsu, you know what I mean? Like, and now Hoffa's teaching all the classes at the academy, all my classes anyway.
You guys get a lot of, you know, celebrity MMA people come through.
We do. We get a lot. You know, I used to be more involved with the MMA stuff. I used to be very involved. I used to train with a lot of those MMA guys. You know, I have a stand-up background, decent jiu-jitsu. So, you know, they used to call me out, especially guys my weight. They used to call me and, hey, listen, can you come through? We'll work in the cage upstairs, or we'll do this, we'll do that. But yeah, with age, you kind of like the guys that I was training with and helping train, they're pretty much all retired now, you know. And the new guys, they don't need us anymore. And you just have to kind of move on from that, you know. It's not, we're not giving them anything, you know, that they haven't seen before. We're not giving them anything, you know. We could coach now. We could kind of like look into, you know, kind of helping them along their journey. It's a tough journey, by the way, being an MMA fighter or Jiu Jitsu fighter. Very tough. It's much easier to sell watches, trust me.
So you mentioned when you first started, a lot of people trained together. It was like a one big mishap of white belts and black belts. How has that shaped you, the way you problem solve on the mat nowadays in everyday life? Having the ability to be a white belt back then and train with black belts, you know, GSP and Gregor and Igor, as you mentioned.
So back then in Enzo's, back then, there were not too many normal people, like 9 to 5 type of guys out there. There were more, you know, I'm a bouncer, I'm a cop, I'm a criminal, I'm that type of person. I'm an MMA fighter. I want to be an MMA fighter, right? And there were not too many guys that were there. And my mom used to be like, why do you go there? They just beat the shit out of you. You know, like, what the hell's wrong with you? You got some serious issues or something, you know, because I would come back and I'd be like, just like beat up.
Yeah.
And also back then we would all train. Yeah. You'd all train in one class in one session, you know, until like later on. So I think that there's like good and bad in that. So your retention of student is going to be very low. You know, if you train that way, right? If you train white belts and all the way through black belts and professional fighters together, the white belts are not going to stay in the program for too long, unless there's something wrong with them and they actually like getting beat up because they don't really know how to do anything. So I think later on when Renzo changed it up, their retention rate went up. And they started doing better as far as the school goes when they started separating white belts and everybody else. And also, I feel like the guys that came in a little later learned faster. So I think that while we were maybe tougher physically or mentally tougher because we went through that gauntlet type of situation, I think that the guys that came 5, 6 years later, they benefited better from the more structure. So that's what I think.
You mentioned to me that 5 years today can equal to 8 to 10 years back then.
Yeah, I definitely think that. I think the guys that train 5 years today are probably on the same level of guys that trained 8 to 10 years back then, because I just think it's more structured. There's a lot more information, YouTube and Instagram and all those places. You could see the techniques more often. So before we started training jiu-jitsu, really, we didn't even see these techniques out, right? So now you have kids growing up playing video games, UFC games. They already saw these techniques in their UFC games growing up as kids. So they know kind of an idea of what a armbar looks like, a triangle choke looks like, a kimura, a guillotine choke looks like. We had no idea what this stuff looked like, right? So we had to kind of like introduce ourselves, and that would take time. So I think definitely today, I think this is the most optimal time to start, you know, training jiu-jitsu. I'm a big advocate, especially if you have a daughter. I don't have any daughters, but if you have a daughter, you should put her into jiu-jitsu. Like, she should know self-defense. If her husband ever gets out of line, just smack him and triangle choke him. And that's it. You know what I mean? Like, there'd be no violence in the world because everybody can stand up for themselves. You know what I mean? Especially women, right? Women are, you know, I sometimes they call me to teach like some women's self-defense classes, and the women would be like, hey, can we work with a woman? I'm like, you know, a woman's not going to attack you, chances are, right? Like, you're going to get attacked by a 200-pound male. That's who's going to attack you. That's who you should train against, like to fight off and to, you know, run away to save yourself. And they're like, huh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, because it does. That, you know, you're a 120-pound woman. Yeah.
That is true. It's a good point. I hope they took that into consideration.
Yeah, no, they did. They did. I mean, I get invited. Sometimes I'm in traveling for like a watch show or something like that, and then somebody finds out I'm I'm a Henzo black belt, they'll be like, oh, hey, bro, do you want to come over to my academy and show us some of the techniques that we're doing there? And then I go over and all of a sudden like, hey, bro, do you want to just teach the class? I'm like, okay. You know what I mean? Like, here you go, try this out. Like, it's pretty cool. Like, as far as like jiu-jitsu has definitely like it's got like a brotherhood type of feeling, you know, a big familiarity of, you know, like even the warm-ups, the techniques, a lot of the schools are doing kind of the same stuff, you know what I mean? So like you can be from a school, you know, in Hong Kong, go to a school in Japan, go to school in Cyprus, and it's the same, you know what I mean? It's the same, pretty much run the same way. You're going to have your little stand-up technique training, your little guard passing stuff. They're going to teach a class for you. I mean, they're going to teach you the technique of the day. And then you're going to have a couple of rounds of rolling, you know. Predominantly everywhere you train is pretty much the same. You know?
Do you trust people differently knowing that they train jiu-jitsu?
I think that because they train jiu-jitsu, first of all, I know who they train with a lot of times. So I know that if need be to get somebody to kind of talk some sense into them, I can do that because of who they train with and who they know. So I feel like there's definitely a bigger trust than somebody just walking on off the street, right? I know he's, you know, for me, like if the guy tells me, look, I train at, you know, Henzo's Brooklyn, or I train at Gregor's gym.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude,
It's definitely a conversation starter.
I can get to Gregor. I could call Gregor right now and be like, yo, is this guy good? Or is he, you know, is he for real? Is he sending me, you know, a scammer? Is like he's trying to scam me? Like, what is he doing? You know, Gregor would be like, yeah, this motherfucker's a scammer. Kick his ass. You know what I mean? Or don't. That's my best student. You know, he's legit. And, you know, usually works out to be
good. I'm smiling. There's this video circulating about a guy coming to a store and the security guard pushes him out. And he's like, you want me to fold you into a lawn chair?
Oh, yeah?
And the guy says, oh, you do jiu-jitsu? He's like, oh, yeah. And then he says, show me jiu-jitsu. He shows the video. It's blurred, but you can see it's three guys standing in the white kimonos with the black belt. And he's like, show me jiu-jitsu. Show me.
Oh, I saw it. It was like a guy going into a club or something, right?
I don't know if it was a club. I mean, it seemed like some kind of boutique, maybe a restaurant. Perhaps I'm wrong, but it's hilarious. Like he was dying. I mean, I'm not saying he was dying to pull his phone out, but like the moment he heard it, that the guy is trying to do some kind of move on him, if it goes down to that, he's like, oh yeah, this is who I am.
Listen, I think jiu-jitsu is great. I think definitely has holes, right? Like, because I trained wrestling, I trained some judo. I definitely think it has like holes in the game, and especially if you don't really practice takedowns and you can't get to the fight to the ground, or you have no stand-up. I think you should have everything, you know what I mean? Like, I think you should have like a little knowledge of everything, you know, even if jiu-jitsu is like your main base, you know. But overall, I think it's a great physical activity. I think it's good for a person that's battling like all sorts of like, you know, mental depression and all sorts of stuff. I think it helps me, because it's not every day for me is also like sunshine and rainbows, you know how they say, but like it helps me like through tough times, through losses, financial losses, through other things in life that have been kind of difficult for us. It helps me kind of like clear my head. Like, look, you're working out at a gym, all right? In a gym, you're going to check your phone 100 times, right? Typically speaking, that's what happens, right? You're checking your phone, you're checking your Instagram, checking your WhatsApp. You get messages from your friends, you get messages from your wife, from your mom. Jiu-jitsu, bro, there's no phone. You know, you're totally cut off for that hour and a half. And that hour and a half is great for you to kind of just like center yourself, you know, clear your mind a little bit, to tackle the problems of what the next day or what the next mission at hand is, right? So I think it's great. I think it's a very good alternative for a lot of people.
Amen to that. Over 20 years in jiu-jitsu in your business, for you, what do you think changed, the world or you?
I still think I'm pretty young. I'm not those guys that's like, oh, remember the old days, remember this day, remember that day.
But
Yeah.
it's that age plus 20 years on top of it.
Yeah, but for me, I think I'm still trying to evolve. I'm still trying to keep up with the young guys. Like I love it when a younger guy comes, like he just got his purple belt or he's going his brown belt, and he's going after me. I like that. I like that. I like to push, and sometimes he might even catch me. I'm not saying I'm uncatchable. Sometimes I make mistakes. Sometimes I do stupid shit, but for me, I like to see where I am. It's like like to me, it's like a lion that can still hunt, even though he's kind of on the, aging out already. He still has a little bite left. He's not just gonna let you walk over, him. And same thing with my work. Like we have a ton of new guys out there. They're all, they all come in, they're the next greatest, the best, and I go up to them, I introduce myself, and they're like, oh hey, yeah, I know you, or whatever, I heard about you. And some of them are cool, and they continue that relationship and then translate it into business. Some of them are just like kind of cocky and arrogant and like, oh, like I'm the next greatest, I'm the this, I'm the that. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever, you'll fade out in like a couple of years and they'll come crawling, whatever. You try to get you're gonna try to get me to come back and sell you stuff or deal with you and this and that. It's like, and I remember these kind of things. Like, there used to be, look, on the street where I am, we used to be the kids, all right? We used to be the broke kids on the street. Now we're the kids that are running things, right? Now we're the men that are running things, I should say. So there are men out there, right? They were our age. When I started out in my 20s, they were our age. So these men would come up to me and shake my hand, right? Hey, good morning, how are you? And show me respect, even though I was a nobody, right? I was a young kid, right? But they would show me respect. And now that I'm in a higher position of power than they are, they come to me and they're like, hey, do you have anything for sale? Do you have a deal on this? Do you have a deal on that? I remember those guys, the guys that shook my hand and wanted to, talk to me or whatever. And also I remember the guys that didn't, right? And the guys that come to me and that didn't want to shake my hand, that didn't want to engage with me when I was a young kid with nothing, that's why I don't work with them. I was like, oh, no, I'm sorry, I don't have this, I don't have that. I totally blow them off, But the guys, like I have a couple of guys that are like in their 60s now, and it's harder to make money when you get older, like it's very hard to make money. It's because the market just, you got to understand, like the market totally shifts and people social media is everything today, right? Social media is everything today. If you're like a 60-year-old guy just trying to get onto social media, good luck to you. Unless you're like super famous from something else, Mike Tyson or whatever maybe. But like if you're a regular guy, you're not going to get anything done on social media today. These young kids, they know how to do it. Me educating you social media today is like you learning a whole new language at age 60. Yeah. It's impossible. So I make it a point to be humble with everyone, say hello to everyone, try to remember people's names. There's a lot of weird names out there today, like it's hard, but I try to remember people's names. I try to engage with people and not try to make them feel like, oh, I'm above you. Even the academy, like even in the academy, a lot of the black belts, they stick together. They don't engage with the blue belts and the purple belts and the white belts. They don't talk to them. I talk to everybody, bro. Come on, let's go. Like
handshake goes a long way.
Yeah. I talk to her. I say hello to everyone. And some of these guys, they just kind of like they gravitate. They're like, hey, listen, art's cool, man. Art is like, and that leads into business too. Oh yeah, what do you do? Oh, I do this. I do watches. I do jewelry. Oh yeah, I'm getting married. Yeah, call me. I'll hook you up. Let's go. What's the deal? You know what I mean? You getting lab or you getting natural? You know what I mean? Today, that's the conversation. You're getting lab or natural. That's the conversation.
That's good. Drink some water if you have to, yeah. If you can go back to a younger version of yourself, I know you're young, but I'm saying when you first got into jiu-jitsu 20 years ago, let's say, starting both jiu-jitsu and your business, what would you tell yourself to do differently, and what would you tell not to change at all?
not to change, I'll start with the back part first. Not to change the work ethic. I would not change the work ethic. I sacrificed a lot of things. I sacrificed, you know, vacations, time at home, uh, tons of things. But to get to a level that I was comfortable at, and then from that level, I can kind of maneuver the way I want to maneuver. So going backwards, also, I wish I would make better choices. Some things that I feel like I missed, were actually really important. And looking back at it, I can't get it back ever. You understand? But at that time, when I was in grind mode, right, to try to come up, make money and support and, get ahead in life, I didn't really pay attention. I didn't really think these things were as important or as memorable, and now looking back at them, I realized that I made a mistake. Right. So but the ship has sailed. You can't get that back anymore. It's done. Right. So it's, that's kind of what I would tell myself to do, and what I would tell myself not to do, not to just keep thinking like tunnel vision and you got to do this and you got to come through, you got to come, no matter what. Dude, I missed a lot of like personal stuff. I missed, I missed out on a lot of like life, because I was on the grind. I was committed to, jiu-jitsu and work and doing everything,
I'm listening to you answer this question, and it resonates. Yeah,
it's hitting home with you because I know you did a lot of the same stuff.
Yeah,
I know because we had this conversation before.
One day I'll be on a podcast, being asked this question, and perhaps I'll share my.
It's tough. It's tough when you look back at it. You're like, damn, I would have done it differently if I would have been doing it right now. Just like a little different, not too much. Just I would be there for that day, and I would be there for that day. It's okay if I would have missed this, or it's okay if I would have not done that. Right. So it is what it is. You live with who you are already. Try to change. Try to change. I changed. My wife tells me I changed. My wife tells me with age you became different.
Yeah.
With age you became not as harsh. I was like not as on your own path, and I kind of would listen to other people's advice and opinions, a little bit better. Years before, it was just.
My wife says that when I met you, were this homegrown, cute kitty with beautiful fur, and now she's like, you this street cat. It gets into fights and but yeah, it's all good.
It's all good.
The street cat. Question for you. For someone starting jiu-jitsu today with big goals outside of the gym, what is the one thing they need to understand early enough?
You will get tapped. You hear this all the time. People will tap you. They'll take your ego, and you just have to keep coming. If this is your goal, this is what you want to accomplish, and this is what you want to do, you got to understand that you're going to get tapped. There are kids out there today in jiu-jitsu that you see the competitions. They're wearing yellow belts and orange belts. They're pulling off moves that black belts can't pull off.
Yeah.
They started when they were like 3-4 years old, and they're probably like 10 by now. So they have 7 years of jiu-jitsu already by that time. I mean, 5 years of jiu-jitsu at that time, like 7 years. They've been training for such a long time that it's going to be hard for you to catch up to them if you started like in your late teens or maybe even early 20s. So I think just, be humble, being a world champion is not for everybody.
Yeah.
It's a tough world. I know a lot of good jiu-jitsu guys. They're not world champions. They're really good though. Not world champions. Never won one,
Your son is training, right?
He trains. He's a little, he's lazy a little bit. He's got school. He's in college. He's a good kid. He works hard. He works with me. I have him working for me at my place. he hustles. He's got his own. He's building his own little Instagram following. He's doing his deals. He's learning from me. The
Good,
playbook.
good.
I try to keep him close. I know what boys can do at, when they're 18, 17, because I was there, you were there, we grew up. You grew up in Brooklyn, I grew up in Queens, so kind of like, ran around, aimlessly a lot of times. So I keep him busy, occupied. I wish he would train more. He will go back again. He'll go back to training like more consistently, I should say. I spoke to him. I'm like, he's a blue belt. So I'm like,
Yeah.
is this where you want to end? This is it for you? Blue belt? That's it? I reached it. This is the pinnacle for you? I'm like, at least get a black belt. At least. After you get a black belt, never train again in your life. Retire the belt, bury it, burn it, whatever you got to do. So get a black belt. It's a check mark also on your, it's a check mark on your life journey, right? It's like, we do all these things, right? College, kids, business, Rolex. It's a check mark for people to get a Rolex. It's a check mark for people to get a first car or a first Ferrari, right? Or a first Lamborghini. Like all these check marks. Jiu-Jitsu should be a check mark. Like,
I think by then, if he ever reaches, and I hope he does, a black belt, he's not going to stop. But at a blue belt level, it's very a high percentage of people, as you know, falling out. So I don't think he's going to stop. I train with him. He looks like he's got great foundation already in jiu-jitsu. So I have a feeling he'll continue on this.
Right I got two other ones coming up behind him.
Yeah.
So we got to get them. Going. They train too. Just every kid is different. Every child is different. You can't. Some kids you can push a little harder. Some kids, if you push, you'll break them. So you don't want to push. But you got to kind of like, you're the director. You got to direct. Like not everyone can train like, like a world champion 4 hours a day and be like, this is what I want to do in my life. Some kids are just not into it as much, but as long as they get in there a couple of days a week, I feel, like no pressure. They don't have to for me, my kids don't even have to compete. Like a lot of parents are like, I had to fight this, because I grew up competing. I grew up competing in a lot of sports. Like for me, it was like a fight to get them to compete. And when I finally would get them to compete, they'd be like, oh my God, I hate this or this or that. Complain to my wife. I'm like, all right, I guess don't compete anymore. What do you want me to tell you? You think I like driving to New Jersey, sitting in traffic, having you weigh in, having this, having that, and driving back and listening to you afterwards, bro? I could have done my own thing during the day, you know what I mean? Worked out, trained, relaxed, watched some TV, some NFL, whatever, whatever. So I don't push too much, but I push a little bit, but not too much. I feel some parents push a little too much and some don't push at all. I feel like there's always got to be like a little bit.
Arthur, I'm going to read you a couple of sentences. Let me know what you think about this and how this resonates with you. People aren't against you, they are for themselves. Climb mountains not so the world can see you, but so you can see the world. You learn more from failure than from success. Don't let it stop you. Failure builds character. The most dangerous risk of all is the risk of spending your life not doing what you want on a bet that you can buy yourself a freedom to do it later. Go where you are celebrated, not where you are tolerated. The person you will spend the most time within your life is yourself, so you better try to make yourself as interesting as possible. If you accept your limitations, you go beyond. And finally, everyone you meet is afraid of something, love something, or have lost something. Anything to say on the story of our life? For the most part, I think.
I think for the most part, that's pretty much, pretty much on point. I think that not everyone's always happy for you, for sure. I think that failure does, for sure, help you grow. And the biggest failures out in the world are the biggest success stories as well. I think, to live a full life, you're going to have to go through the full emotional spectrum. All right. love, laughter, happiness, sadness, you know, it's all, I think, you know, it's all important, and, you know, shapes the person, you know,
I
shapes.
think also to piggyback of what you said, that you feel like you possibly missed some moments in your life, but perhaps we wouldn't be sitting here today doing this if it wasn't for the struggle and all the missing moments from something else that you had to overcome by getting here. I mean, like you said, it shapes us. Tough time doesn't last, right?
Yeah.
Tough people do, whatever the phrase is, but um, I don't know. It just, I saw it recently. It resonated with me. I wanted to write it down,
I
run it by
mean,
you.
that's pretty much life right there.
Yeah.
You know, pretty much you'll go through. I don't know a single person in life, money, no money, that doesn't go through the whole, you know, emotional up and down. You know, there are people there. I have people that, you know, super successful. They have family problems, health problems, right? I know people that are broke that are fully healthy, you know. I know people that are super rich that have drug problems, right? I know people that are super broke that can't afford food, right? So there's all these kind of things. Like I think God will test you, the world will test you, people will test you, and how you come out on top is entirely kind of reliant on you and the system that you have around you. So family, yeah, but sometimes jujitsu is a good system, right? Work can be a good system. So I think a lot of people just are in a comfort zone and are surrounded by people that they kind of are comfortable with and know for such a long time. Like some people, I'm sure you know people like this too. I grew up with people that literally have the same four friends they had in elementary school. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. But like, is there a bigger circle here? Like, you know, like I know you guys go way back, but like, don't you know anyone else? No, I don't need anyone else out of this, out of that. It's like, why? You know, don't you think that there's something out there, some other person out there that can kind of maybe influence you, change your mind, expand your mind, you know, you know, do something for you, like help you grow into the person that you might have been.
Yeah.
You know, so sometimes these people, I think that they're just too sheltered, they're too kind of narrow-minded, and that's not a good thing. Being too open-minded is not so good either. If somebody's doing like a mountain of coke next to you, I would skip that part. But
I spoke to somebody very recently. He's not gonna watch this, so I'm not throwing a name out there, but I haven't been in contact with him for probably 10 years.
okay,
Speaking to him for 2-3 days about a very specific subject that we had to touch on, I feel like I lost a bunch of brain cells just being around him. He probably was that same person that I kind of witnessed 10 years ago, and most likely 20 years before that too. It just, he, you know, he's been staggering in that age time where he's just comfortable being around a few people. You know, and it doesn't make anybody better or worse. It just, like you mentioned, we should be often in an uncomfortable position because this is what possibly is going to make us better. Difficult moments, you know, learning experiences. Let's switch to a couple of blitz questions.
all right.
Old school or new school jiu-jitsu?
Old school meaning no leg locks? Is that what you mean?
Uh, you know what? When I wrote this down, I didn't think of leg locks, but I just thought of how you started because of the way your story, you know, you were training with everybody. But yeah, forget about leg locks. Just
I prefer, my preference of jiu-jitsu is like a Roger Gracie jiu-jitsu. You mount, you finish. You know, it's very simple, very straight to the point, not too much fanciness. He probably knows how to do everything. I'm pretty sure of it, right? He's seen it, done it. If he doesn't do it, he knows how to counter it.
mhm.
So I think that, and also if you're like, I was explaining this actually to somebody I spoke to you about earlier today.
Yeah.
It's like we didn't practice leg locks in the beginning too much, right? Because these guys that were doing jujitsu, they were getting ready for MMA fights. And if you're kind of like hunting for leg locks, you're kind of susceptible for like punches, right? You know, so a lot of times they wouldn't concentrate on like, you know, obviously it developed a lot, but they wouldn't concentrate on leg locks because it would leave them open for like big punches in a fight. And, you know, that's a big risk that they didn't want to take. And you see it all the time still to today. So for me, I think old school jiu-jitsu, I like it. And I think that new school is good too, but I think a lot of those moves are just filler. You don't need them. You know, you don't need them. What, wrong? You don't think so?
No. I have no comments. I'm just a question guy.
You don't think so? You don't,
No.
you think I'm wrong?
No, listen, I'm all about old school.
I like,
For me, old school is the way, I'm, you know, might sound biased. It's just the way I came up.
I like old school.
It works for me. It worked for me. It still works for me. That being said, I'm all about learning something new, which I do. And it's not always comfortable, but
do you find the more you learn, the more you go back to the old school?
yeah,
I find that.
that's why no matter where I train, my jiu-jitsu always wins, meaning the way I came up learning things.
Right.
Survival training or structured system?
I prefer structured.
Hard rounds or hard business days?
If a hard business day, but there's a lot of money on the end of that hard business day, then I'll take the hard business day.
Belts or results?
I prefer results.
Comfort or growth?
Growth.
One technique you wish you had learned earlier?
I learned everything pretty early. Just implementing the techniques, you know, kind of changes with, you know, when you're younger, you don't have the patience a lot of times. Maybe you abandoned the technique early, or maybe you're just a little adjustment wasn't proper, you know, like a arm and guillotine or something like that. You know, maybe you didn't squeeze long enough, or you didn't tilt a little, you know, to the side a little, you know. So I think that just having more patience, you know, that's kind of like for me, it's that instead of learning the technique is learning more patience, like to actually just like refine the technique.
Hustle or patience?
Hustle.
Cash flow or reputation?
I think reputation will give you more cash flow.
Risk early or risk later?
Risk early. Less to lose.
Rolex or Patek?
Patek.
Flip or hold?
What market are we talking about? This market, probably say flip.
One piece you regret selling?
So there's a really, really hyped up watch brand in the market today that's been around since I believe 1999 or 2000. It's called FP Journe. Okay. Not a big maker. Okay. Literally makes, I think, 3,000 to 5,000 units a year. If maybe possibly probably even less. Okay. This watch used to be a $30,000 watch, used to go for like 20,000. Well, secondary market used to go. Now that $30,000 retail watch is going for like 150,000. Okay. Super rare, hard to get, hard to find. I used to sell a bunch of them, didn't give a crap, but I'm not seeing them anymore. Well, I'm not seeing them for those prices anymore for sure. So I wish I would have held one back at least for myself, you know, because I unloaded all of them at whenever I used to get them. I used to sell them. So the guys that I sold them to, they're kings right now. I sold one to a friend of ours that's he just got his black belt from Sapo. A guy named Terrence, very nice guy. And he was like, "Oh man, what do you think about this FP?" I'm like, "Yeah, I just got a blue one." He's like, "Oh yeah, how much is it?" I think I sold it for like 30 grand. I think that watch is probably worth 150 grand right now. You know, it's a really So everything has its like moment, all right? So this is their moment right now, FP. I said it here. If you guys, the jiu-jitsu community didn't know about it, FP. Now they know about it.
Beautiful. Which one is tougher role? Athletic blue belt or an older technical black belt?
Probably an older technical black belt. They could, they surprise you sometimes with the kind of weird stuff that they do. We roll with a lot of guys that come from different academies. We get the opportunity to, and some guys just do weird stuff, like, and sometimes you're like, man, this is not going to work. This is, what is this crap? And all of a sudden you're like, oh, like shit. I got to watch out for this guy with that crap,
Guard you hate dealing with the most?
Probably some sort of, like a lapel.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's
some sort of lapel guard.
very annoying.
It's annoying, yeah.
Roll with the legend or 10 roll with killers?
Depends on the day, but take the legend for sure. You could learn some pretty good stuff.
One mistake that taught you the most?
In jiu-jitsu?
Doesn't matter.
Hard to trust people that are jealous of you. It's hard to trust them because they don't want the best for you. So if you are the type of person that trusts people because you think that you're close to them or you grew up close to them, but your projection and their projection is much greater, your projection is much greater than theirs, and they're jealous of you, hard to trust them. They'll backstab you for sure. And I've had that. And it was actually by a person that was very, very close to me. I grew up like brothers. And, I didn't expect a lot of things from his way. It was very sad. It was very sad. It was like I lost a brother. It was a very sad moment. They got into a little physical altercation as well. I'll tell you, I won, but it's not the way I would have want things to go. And I would never, I think now he's realized he's made a mistake, but it's already too late. And I would never let him close again.
Best business lesson jiu-jitsu taught you?
I think, you know what I think? I think in jiu-jitsu, everyone's wearing a white kimono or a blue kimono, right? A gi or no gi. So you don't see them outside of it, right? You don't really picture that person as a father, a doctor, a lawyer. So I think don't judge them by their mat, right? Don't judge them the way they are on the mat. Judge them outside of the mat. Judge them on who they are outside. A lot of guys are very humble, are very kind of, discreet about who they are and what they have and how, like what types of success and what types of lives they've led. So I think for me, jiu-jitsu taught me, don't judge a book by its cover. Don't, assume anything about anyone until you actually see them and you understand who they actually really are.
Trust your gut or trust the numbers?
I trust numbers, man. I trust numbers. But my gut also has something to do with it. But numbers don't lie. If you're a person that you didn't do right by this guy, you didn't do right by that guy, you didn't do right by this guy, chances are what? The numbers are telling me you're not going to do right by me. Right? So no matter what you're promising me, I don't care. Because you screwed him, you screwed him, you screwed him. Guess who's next? Me. All right. So I trust the numbers. Right. That's the way we play. Reputation is everything.
Solo grind or building a team?
I like the team. The reason why I am who I am today is because I have a team. I started on my own. I was the leader. I was looked on as the leader, even though I didn't know anything or everything, I should say. I brought my brother on to help. Then I brought one of my childhood well, he brought one of his childhood friends on, and I brought one of my childhood friends on, and we developed a team around these 4 people. Well, us 4. And now, I have a bigger team. I have a lot of people that do certain things, but the core stayed the same. We're still all together. So from the time that I opened up, these guys came to join up with me probably about 2007 and onwards, probably till 2009, and they're still with me. So they'll never leave, because the kind of money that they're making with me now, they're not going to make anywhere else. And I trust them. These people I trust because they earned the trust, right? From years and years and years of vetting. All right. You can't just trust everybody, especially not in my business. I can take a suitcase worth of jewelry and watches and disappear on you. Go look for him. And then if you hire, whoever you hire, and it's a bigger problem for you because you did that. You know what I mean? It's like everyone, it's a dangerous game. That's why the industry is like, oh, why do you guys only hire the guys that are from your neighborhood or guys that you know of? Or because how am I supposed to trust you, dude? Like, I don't know who you are. Like, where are you from? Like, I don't know. I didn't grow up with you. I don't know where you're from, who your father is, who your mother is, who your sister is, who your brother is. At least I know who his cousin is. If I have a problem with him, I'll call his cousin up. Yo, who the hell did you send me here? Like, this guy, I'm supposed to trust this guy? It's like, that's kind of how it works. It works by connection, right? And actually, it's funny because people try to go the other way, just hire random people. Didn't turn out so well for them. A lot of times, like, stolen money, stolen merchandise, fraud here, fraud there. There's a lot of fraud that can be done in our type of business, whether you're doing the fraud to people or you're getting defrauded by one of your workers. There's a lot of fraud that can be done.
Comfort zone or pressure cooker?
We're in a pressure cooker environment. We're not in a comfort zone environment. And we're used to that environment. Every day we deal with big numbers. Every day we deal with transactions, in the thousands, and those transactions add up. And one mistake can, I sold you a watch, right?
Yeah.
I sold you a watch.
Yes, you did.
If anything happens, if anything went wrong with that watch, like that watch turned out to be fake, like I have to stand behind my product. I have to eat that, right? So I got to make sure that when I'm buying, I'm not getting duped, that I'm being 100% thorough. Not only that, I got to make sure that I'm paying the right price. I got to make sure that the watch is not whatever. If it is broken, I know about the fact that how much the repair is going to end up costing me. So it's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure. And then we deal with it. So a lot of us deal with the pressure, but then we like to go get more pressure from like a Jiu Jitsu academy. A lot of the guys that do this job that I do also have sports betting, gambling problems because they like the pressure. They like it. They're just drawn to it. They play cards, they play in the poker houses, they do tons of sports betting, casino gambling. My pressure is a little bit of that too. I'm not saying I don't do the sports betting stuff. I do a little bit just for fun, but I like the Jiu Jitsu stuff because it's also like a pressure, right? So the guy's putting pressure on you. He wants to pass your guard. He wants to mount you. He wants to submit you. It's also pressure. So it's pressure everywhere. Pressure makes diamonds.
Yep. Long game or quick wins?
Long, definitely long game. Quick wins, you're not going to get very far. You got to build it. It's a slow turn, slow grind up, build it. I started out with one Rolex watch, man. One. I couldn't afford a second one, so it kept on being that one. Then I would sell it off my wrist and I wouldn't have it. Then I'd buy another one. Slowly, I got 2. Then it gained 4, so that's kind of how it goes, but slow and steady. And people would be like, oh, why don't you wear, whatever? Like, oh, what happened to your Submariner? One of my first watches was like a Rolex Submariner. Like, what happened to your Submariner? I sold it. You sold your watch? It's like, yeah, dude, like I sold it. I'm going to buy another one eventually when I catch the right price. Like right now, I didn't catch the right price, but I'll buy another one, you know, and people don't get that. You know, it's like a lot of times that they're like, oh my God, how can you sell something that's yours? I'm like, well, it's not mine yet. I didn't earn it yet. When I feel like I earned it, I'll buy myself a Submariner that I won't sell. And I bought one myself back in 2008 that I still have. That's mine. And it's not for sale. You know, I still keep it. I don't wear it because I don't wear Rolexes like that anymore. Not to be like whatever, but I don't like Rolexes, right? Like they're cool, but I feel like too many people have them. I feel like it doesn't, especially if you're in the watch business, right? Like you want to kind of like little stand out. Like guys looking at you, you're trying to sell him a $200,000 watch and you're wearing a Rolex for like $6,000. He's like, hey, bro, like what the hell is this guy? Like, does he even understand watches? Like, is he trying to like sell me some, you know, garbage here? Like, what is he doing? Like they want to see the fact that you're wearing like something also, you know, expensive and you understand, like you're in there, you know, because you're in that world. But if I were not in that world, I'd probably be rocking that Rolex, you know, till today, because it's a great watch, keeps great time, it's functional. I always say this, like people always ask me all the time, it's like, hey, listen, if you had, you know, one watch that you could have, like you were a regular guy, not a watch guy, it's a Rolex Submariner, that would be my one watch. Like it's a Rolex, it's timeless. If you get stranded in Afghanistan, I don't know if you would, but if you would get stranded in Afghanistan, you know that they would take that watch from you probably for like $300, $400, but at least they'll give you a ride out of the country through the mountains or something like that. So it's one of those watches. Like you can pawn it off, sell it off. Everyone knows it. It's valued everywhere, all over the world.
Yeah.
You know, utility based. You know.
Moving on. Jiu-Jitsu lesson that hurt the most.
Jiu-Jitsu lesson that hurt the most. Well, I generally speaking am pretty, thank God, like injury free throughout my, you know, jiu-jitsu journey. I always tapped. I never had an ego of not tapping. A couple of years back, I had knee surgery because I had a torn meniscus. And I don't know why, but I wanted to have it repaired. And the repair didn't last. So it ruptured like 6 months after. And I had to do it again. That was something that I should have avoided. Just had it done the first time, just to, you know, like a meniscectomy, I think it's called, right? When they just clip it out, they shave down the meniscus. And I would avoid one major surgery because the recovery on the repair is actually much longer than the regular. The recovery was only like 6 months. So I was pretty much out of all year. I was out all year. So it sucked. You know, sitting on the sidelines is the worst. Yeah. You know, for me, it's the worst. I'd rather train twice a week than not train, period. You know what I mean? Like twice a week for me is a good sweet spot. You know, it's a good spot. Like you're not too sore and you're not too rusty. You know, it's like kind of right in the middle.
One jiu-jitsu lesson that, excuse me, we're going to cut this one out. One habit jiu-jitsu forced you to fix.
Habit jiu-jitsu forced me to fix. So by nature, I procrastinate a little bit by nature. I don't know. I've always been kind of a little bit of a procrastinator. Like I always waited to the last minute. I think jiu-jitsu forces you to kind of act that second because the opportunity is probably going to go away. So it's either on offense or on defense, right? And sometimes I also procrastinate a little bit when I'm doing jiu-jitsu. Like guard passing, I'll just be like a little, and all of a sudden the guy's like, you know, getting control and this and that. But same thing to the real world. I know that opportunity is here today. I have to take the opportunity because tomorrow the opportunity might not be here. Whereas my nature would probably be like, you know, like, it's okay, wait, you know, but jiu-jitsu kind of like, no, I gotta go now. You gotta do this now, you know what I mean? And it's been working. It's been working out.
If jiu-jitsu disappeared tomorrow, what lesson would you keep forever?
I would keep my spirit of not giving up because the lesson the 20-year journey has not always been smooth, right? Like as a later purple belt, I almost never trained. I almost quit a few times, but I kept coming back. I kept coming back. I kept showing up, even though I would take like breaks. We have a kid and I need to be home with the kid because my wife's at school, and, situation after situation. Kids get sick when they're younger, little babies also, they get sick. We had to be at home. I couldn't train. So I think that one thing that I would keep is just consistency, showing up, and, perseverance, basically, not giving up.
Most overrated watch on the market right now.
I think for me, anything like Richard Mill's overrated. I think to me, it never did anything for me. I mean, I see guys wearing it. I wore it a few times. I had a few of them. I just think a watch that's that much money, and from the majority of them, another insight for this community here. So Richard Mille makes pretty cool looking watches. Unfortunately, most of them are not water resistant, waterproof. So you're wearing a 200K watch, 250, 300K watch, but you can't swim in it in the Maldives in beautiful water and show off your watch. That kind of sucks, right? So it's like, you're wearing this watch. Like, why can't I swim in this 250K watch? I can swim in a $6,000 Submariner, but I can't swim in a 250K Richard Mille watch. So to me, I think they're overrated. I think they're nice for what they do, as far as like they're using newer types of material, different cooler material, titaniums, carbons, different combinations of stuff, skeletalized stuff. But I think the price point doesn't reflect it. It's, to me, sorry, Richard Mille. I hope you don't see this.
One brand people buy for stats more than love.
Rolex. I think Rolex is, I think 95% of their pieces are just like regurgitated old stuff that, has been done and redone, but people love it, people like it. And they think that it's like, a status symbol, I guess, whatever. And to some people it is, but I feel like there are a lot of other brands out there that can probably, be cheaper and are better quality and give you that same kind of feel or look, for almost the same kind of money. So for me, honestly, I just see too many Rolexes. I think they're great, as far as like marketing goes, as far as, their whole, Rolex is a privately held company. It's not, it's like you don't know their finances. Nobody knows anything about them. They can announce tomorrow that they're going to make 10 watches. They can announce the next day that they can make 1 million, and we won't know about it, until they decide. It's not like like a Swatch Group, which is traded on the, stock market. There's a stock symbol. There's, a board of directors. There's a board of directors, but there's like stockholders and everything. Everyone's got an input. So if they see the stock going down and they need to produce, let's say, another 100,000 units of this specific watch, because this is the only seller for them, they'll hit that button and produce it. Rolex will be like, no, I don't think we should do it. And that's kind of how Rolex runs. So Rolex is a smart, very shrewd business. They actually created right now something called the Rolex CPO, Certified Pre-Owned Department. So what Rolex does is they started issuing new cards. So it's like a tan looking card. So typically speaking, comes with a green warranty card. So now they started issuing cards that are tan color that went through Rolex service, like a Rolex, like certified Rolex service. Like imagine you going to BMW and,
Pre-owned.
So you get a pre-owned Rolex, right? So they created, out of this new pre-owned business, is already $500 million a year for them, a revenue stream out of nothing. 500 million a year. They're thinking, I was reading an article, they're thinking probably 2 billion in the next probably 10 to 15 years. 2 billion yearly, annually. That's extra revenue for Rolex. 2 billion just off of pre-owned shit, polishing up watches and reselling them again. You know, it's cool. Very smart.
What mistake screams first-time buyer?
Diamonds in a watch. Diamonds, especially aftermarket diamonds. We see a lot of those. A lot. Too many. There's a Patek. I think it's a 5940, I think, model number. And Future, the rapper, got this Patek. This is years ago. I'm going back. It was a limited Patek. It's a 40th anniversary Patek. So there weren't many made. There were probably 1,000 pieces made or something like that. So Future, the rapper, he's got tons of money. I get it. He takes this one watch and fully encrusts it with diamonds. And, you know, at that point, that watch retailed for $135,000. That was the retail of it. Diamond work probably another like 30 grand. So you're talking about like 200,000, right? Everyone starts doing it, but so these are limited Pateks. They didn't make that many. So then this watch, because it's so limited, starts shooting up in price. So you see this watch go from 130 sticker price. That's what it was selling for at sticker. All of a sudden it's 250 without diamonds. Then it's 300, 400, 500. It went up all the way up to 750,000. Okay. So the guys that iced out these Pateks and put diamonds in them, they were actually getting less money than the ones that were just plain, because those ones were trading at about, I mean, the highest one was probably about 750, but they were constantly trading within 400 to 500K, and retail was only about 130K. So if they would have held it regular, they would have profited. And then to resell it back was a major issue, because nobody wants this with this whole ice stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's like only a specific buyer can get that. You either could be a rapper or NFL player or something like that.
Very specific. Yeah.
Small market. Yeah.
Let's do the last one. What's more dangerous, fake watches or fake experts?
I think some of the fake watches now, man, are really good. Really good. There are fake watches out there now that are so good because they're actually using really close parts. So a long time ago, fake watches used to be what, like $60, $50? That's what they were selling them on the streets for, right? So production was probably about $20. All right. Now these watches are produced for $400, $500, $600, $800 production. They're being sold for like $2,000, $3,000. So they're actually really, really close to the quality of the real watch. So it's a big problem nowadays in the watch business, in the watch community. Know the person that you're dealing with. My, recommendation. Know the person you're dealing with. Make sure that they're 100% ironclad, and then they stand behind their product. They stand behind their product. Like we stand behind everything we sell. I stand behind everything I sell. You tell me this is fake, I'll give you all your money back plus 10% on top because I'm wasting your time. But I guarantee you it's rare, or else I won't be in business for this long. So it's like, for me, reputation's everything. Know who you're dealing with. Make sure that if whoever you're buying from, that dude, if there's any problem, this turns out to be fake. Maybe you didn't know. Maybe you got duped, right? Maybe you didn't try to dupe me. Maybe you got duped. But you stand behind it. Worst case scenario, I give you proof from Hublot that this watch is not real. There's a letterhead from Hublot that says this watch is fake. Here you go. Give me my money back. And that's it. No games. Right? No games. And that's how you get ahead. In business and life, no games, right? Just straight to the point. Let's go. We're ready for work, ready for business. That's it.
Awesome. I feel like I learned a lot today about watches, about your journey, Jiu Jitsu, your bringing everything that you've talked about. So this was very positive, productive, and a lot of fun for me.
Thank you for having me. Like I said, I get invited to a few of these. Sometimes they're just not the topic that I choose to, I'm not engaged in, so having, some mat time with you, knowing who you are, the project that you're putting out there, It's a good project. You know, when you contacted me first for the people at Jiu Jitsu, the thing, I was like, oh man, this is a great project, man. This guy's like really, you know, trying to, you know, unite people through Jiu Jitsu. And yeah, so thank you for having me. And I hope it's going to be a good episode for people to watch and learn from, you know?
For sure. And definitely, Arthur, mention where your work location.
Yeah, so I'm located at an office, but anyone can reach me at Arthur Fifth Ave on Instagram. I'm pretty active on Instagram, sometimes too active. But I'm at 590 Fifth Avenue on the 10th floor. We run out of there. That's our business. I used to be, actually, quick side note, I used to be the only reseller of pre-owned watches on Fifth Avenue. So Fifth Avenue is known for having, you know, these branded stores. I was the only reseller. So, but that building got torn down. And we used to be across the street. That building got torn down. And now we are just in an office. So I used to have an office and a retail shop. I had Gordon in that shop, Igor, Henzo. Henzo was actually working behind the showcase one time for me. People were coming in. He's like, and the guy's like, hey, can I see this? I have the video somewhere. I'm like, hey, can I see this? He goes, hey, can I see this watch? And I was like, yeah, sure, my man. Henzo's going into the showcase. I'm like, only this guy can go teach jujitsu, travel to Abu Dhabi, teach some seminars to some, you know, like famous people and all this other stuff, be in a movie, be in a reality show, and then come back and sell a watch on Fifth Avenue. See, he's working even when he's not at work.
Tell the buck.
Teaches jujitsu, then comes here, sells watches.
Selling watches at 47th Street.
Welcome back there.
Holy break here. For my friends, everything.
Holy guy.
Oh.
That's awesome. We're definitely going to put all the info on the YouTube page for people to click on. But it's amazing to have you here. Your stories are fascinating. And I wish people that you mentioned in your stories are going to have a laugh and going down the memory lane with us. So thank you for being here, brother.
Thank you, bro.
One love.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you too.